Good morning, good morning, good morning, beautiful people. How is it going out there in your world? Thank you for coming to Daily Motivations for African American Success. We're at day 161. Good morning, Brandon. How is it going?
Good morning, Mom. It's going great. It's going great. It's a
Good.
beautiful morning. Lucky and happy and grateful to be alive.
All right,
How
all
are
right.
you?
I'm good. I'm good. I
Yeah,
can't
you get
call
some
it
good,
my
good
call
rest?
it kind of day, huh?
Did you get some good rest?
No,
Was
I did
You
not.
didn't?
But it's
Why not?
all good.
Why not? What's
Well,
going on?
I still had some I just had some work to do because I've been working on the certification stuff, so I kind of fell behind on some of the 9 to 5 stuff. Well, not really fell
Mm,
behind. It just didn't get to me, when it should have, or when I would have liked to have it, so I could have worked on it. So it's scheduling. So you got to get those out. So
that's true. That's true. Well,
wait
speaking of rest, I spoke with my aunt yesterday or last night, and I was looking for my magnesium pills because you're big on magnesium.
mhm.
and using it for sleep. I was looking for my magnesium pills, and she reminded me that I gave them to her a while ago, and she said she's bought three since then, and it has been helping her sleep. So
Okay.
this was months ago, and she said she's bought three refills since then, and it's given her some of the best sleep she's had. And I completely forgot about. I think this was before you even started, wearing it topically. But
Mhm.
I'm going to try to start incorporating that more too internally. So thank you
Yeah.
for that
Yeah.
great reminder.
It's actually good too. I know you probably know this, but for those who work in the sun, out in the heat, I
Yeah.
read up on it that it says magnesium is actually good for that as well. Now, I once I got to bed, I got rest. I mean, I got good sleep. It's just I didn't go until late, late, late. So I
Oh
guess it was
man.
about one something.
Oh yeah, that's late for you.
It's late for me. I'm a 7 o'clock kind of girl. So
7
it is.
o'clock kind of girl. That's pretty
Yeah,
early.
yeah. I look like by 8 o'clock, yeah, I want to be asleep. But doesn't always happen that way. But anyway, good everything, great people. Miss Brenda Davis is rocking with us. Say hello from YouTube if you're there. Y'all been kind of quiet over there, and we have to do better with saying good morning to you guys as well. But
Right.
thank you for rocking with us. Let's get our Instagram family on board here so we can get them to the barbecue.
Let's do it.
They'll know how we have to do it.
Thank y'all
I'm
so much for being
hungry this
for
morning.
what'd you say?
I am so hungry this morning.
Yeah, get you something to eat, babe.
I know, right?
Get you something to eat. So as soon as we get Instagram live, guys, we will
There we
be
go, Brandon.
right after. All
Do your
right. Well,
thing and we'll get going.
welcome,
Good morning,
welcome,
Rodney
welcome.
Jordan. Hey, family. How's it going over there in your world? School started back? That's our principal in the family, y'all.
Yeah.
He's
Let us know
changing
where
things over there in Virginia.
in Virginia. What part of Virginia?
Oh, Rodney, what part
Newport
is it? I
News?
forget. It's not Newport News.
No?
They
Okay.
moved a little bit further. I guess, is it north, Rodney?
Okay.
He says everything is going well. I have to give
Good.
Rodney a shout out. He did some wonderful things at the school, Charlottesville, that he is
Charlottesville.
working in. The test scores and things like that have come up. The kids are more engaged. Teachers are more engaged. So we didn't expect anything less from Mr. Evolution.
Hey,
Have to
hey,
get
hey.
Rodney back on and do a show.
Well, speaking of evolution and transformation, the evolution of this podcast has been beautiful. For what, 161 days, Mom? Is it 161 days?
161 days now. Mm,
161 days of back to back
mm.
transformation, reading through the book Daily Motivations for African American Success. Again, Daily Motivations for African American Success. This is the book. If you haven't gotten it, please make sure you go get it. Mine is a little, tattered up and weathered. Why? Because I use it a lot. And I got a parrot that had a field day with it one day when I left her out in the room. But so I guess the animals like it too. They know a good book when they see it. This is a high value book, but a low cost. So please get that book from wherever you get the majority of your books, whether it's Amazon or Barnes and Nobles or wherever. They should have this book. But it's a book, like we always say, that follows us around. That's become a friend to us. That seems to be preemptive in a lot of situations. We'll read it in the day and then find the words and the passages and the affirmations and the motivations. We find that we needed it for that day. I can speak for myself. A lot of the times when I'm reading this book and I go out into the world, I'm like, man, I can directly apply this to every single situation. And I'm not, there might be a sense of, projection, or like, okay, now I'm looking for these things in order to work on them. Or it might be that, God's just guiding us in those situations. And it's probably a mix of both. But either way, I'm grateful for it. Either way, I see it as a gift. And like yesterday said, I don't look the gift horse in the mouth, right? I'm grateful for the gift, no matter how it comes, because I didn't have this before. So a little bit more about this book. This book will help you focus on the thoughts, attitudes, and deeds that will lead to the achievement of your true goals. And 365 short, powerful motivations, one for each day of the year. Dennis Kimbro, who's also the author of the popular book Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice, leads us to discover how to use the present moment and our own gifts to transcend labels, cultivate a positive attitude, become wise enough to know when to say yes and when to say no, and to look inward for answers to life's challenges. So each motivation begins with words of wisdom and a quote from distinguished and celebrated African Americans as Malcolm X, Marion Wright Elderman, Whoopi Goldberg, Charlene Hunter Galt, Bill Cosby, Carl Rowland, Mother Hale, Reverend Leon Sullivan, and the list goes on and on with hundreds of others. This treasure trove of practical inspiration will give you fresh encouragement every day of the year, but what it teaches will last you a lifetime. The character it helps you to develop, the awareness and consciousness that it gives you, insights on, will last you a lifetime. So thank you all for joining us, whether it's your first time or you've been here every single day. We appreciate you and we are grateful for you. So thank you for being here. Mom, anything to you before we get into it?
No, I agree with what you're saying about this book. It is so applicable. And it's so down to it's starting to pour out into people who are not listening, but I'm coming in contact with. Like there's been a few times where I've actually somebody is sharing something that they're going through with me on the day. This has been twice with the same person.
Hmm.
And she's just wow. I hope she's listening this morning because we just had that happened this week. She was sharing something with me, and I was like, "That's the thing we talked about today. Here you go again. I'm just going to
Does she have
pass the
the
book
book?
over to you because I don't know if she's been really listening. She's maybe once, but
No, I'm
I
saying that, does she have
reminded
the book
her,
though?
because the first time it was something she was going. That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know. I don't know if she has the book. I don't think so. I would say no. I don't think so. But this book is, I don't know, you guys. It's different. Like Brandon said, it's become my best friend. It's adding something to my life, and how awesome it is to have a book to feel like a book, a daily motivation, something that you can go to and get some food from every day, food that feeds your soul in a way that um, it ignites you, right? It brings joy, peace, a sense of surrender to the things that surrendering to the things that you are growing through, right? And us coming together here, it's just that much greater, right? Because we're not alone in it. And Rodney, we got to do something with that as well. Rodney and I, some time back, had talked about like-minded people, right? Being the value of being around like-minded people, not perfect people, not people maybe growing towards the same thing, but like-minded people, those who know the value in growing and self-awareness and looking in that mirror and owning what you see without accepting that this is what it will be, right? It does not have to be what I see, does not have to be. I can change my eyes, my heart, my ears, and so forth. So kudos, y'all get the book. If you have not, get the book and do your own kind of thing with it.
I agree. I agree. Don't let anything stop you. Even if you're not able to catch the show, which it should be easier for you to catch the show. If not every day live in the mornings, you can always go back and check the show later or midday or whenever. When I
Right.
sign on to YouTube now, it pops up. It says, daily motivations for success. It says the end of the season podcast. So I'm able to see it, and it's kind of funny for me to see it. I'm like, oh, what's that? Oh, okay, that's me and mom. So y'all please catch that and send it over to somebody else that needs it. If you won't do it for yourself, share it with somebody else. And send receipts. You never know what we'll do for people uh, that share this podcast. There's always something that we can do. So let's jump right into it on this July 10th. July 10th. I just saw the clock. It said 7:10 a.m. and then 7:10, 2024. I just thought it was funny. But this July 10th, 2024, our title is Please Forgive Me. Please forgive me. And our quote comes from Ralph Bunchy, the former Secretary General of the United Nations. Ralph Bunchy, former Secretary General of the United Nations, who said, "People with clenched fists cannot shake hands." People with clenched fists cannot shake hands. The decision to forgive yourself or someone else is a vote to live in the present moment. I'll never forgive him for that. How can I forgive myself? Are these familiar expressions? If we refuse to forgive others, then we are really saying, instead of taking action to improve matters, I prefer to live in the past and blame someone else. When we won't forgive ourselves, we are actually choosing to stay on a guilt trip that only leads to mental anguish. Some people don't understand this idea of forgiveness. They believe that forgiveness is a one-way street. If they have been hurt or wronged, they believe it is the duty of the other party to offer forgiveness. Usually,
Mhm.
these individuals withhold their forgiveness until someone apologizes. But anytime we withhold forgiveness, we suffer. We suffer. Half the time, the quote, guilty person doesn't even know he hurt us and continues to breeze happily through life while we put ourselves through unnecessary torture. When we when we choose to forgive, a marvelous principle comes into play. As we change, others change. As we become open and receptive, others respond to us in kind. Somehow, the moment we say, I forgive you, we release others and we are released in the process. And the motivation and affirmation that we read 3 times at the bottom of the page, one time for me, one time for you, and one time for the person that we know that you're going to invite to the next show. The motivation reads, I now release all those who have hurt or offended me. I forgive them completely.
Mm.
We didn't say forget, but it says, I now release all those who have hurt or offended me. I forgive them completely. Somebody else
Mm.
needs to hear this because somebody is holding on to something. I can feel it, like, because I feel it within
Yeah.
myself. Somebody out there, including myself, is probably holding on to something. And you might have every right to hold on to it, right? But don't be uh, dead right, as my mother says sometimes, right? Like, don't allow you being right to kill the goodness inside of you, to taint or harden your heart just because you're right. So, for the last time, I now release all those who have hurt or offended me. I forgive them completely. That's powerful if you can do it. If you're strong enough to do it, it takes strength, not weakness. Sometimes when we hear about forgiveness and offering forgiveness, it makes us feel weak. It makes us feel like we lost something, like we didn't have any get back, and they didn't have any recompense and retribution for the evil or for the wrong or for the hurt or for the offense that they've caused, right? But that is our own ego. That's our ego. There's a difference between being righteous and being self-righteous, right? The self-righteous inside of us is the ego that wants to prove to be right, that wants to be seen to be right, that wants the social leverage of being right at the expense of someone else being wrong because they've wronged us, and we want to make sure that they feel it. And I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm not saying that an eye for an eye isn't equality, but what I'm saying is it leaves two people blind, or at least partially. So neither of you can really see each other until there's some type of reconciliation, if it deserves it. Specifically, I think with your family. If you have people in your family that are your blood relatives that you do have a degree of love and respect for, but you're holding something against them or they're holding something against you, make an effort to go out there and address it. A lot of the tough conversations that we all need to have, we lean away from.
Yes.
What I'm saying is to start leaning toward them, and you'll see that it's healing. It does hurt when you take that band-aid, dog, especially if you got little hairy arms like I do. It hurts. But you got to let it breathe. You got to let that wound breathe a little bit. If
Yeah.
it's really going to heal, you got to let it breathe. And you cannot heal what you don't reveal. So reveal it. Tell the person that hurt you, hey, man, that really hurt. Sometimes that's all you need to say, because maybe their intention wasn't to do it. And for the people that had malintent, you know, you can deal with them differently. Say, you know what, I'm forgiving you, not for you, but for me. I can't hold on to this anymore. You know, so they say that when you seek revenge, and there I think there's a type of revenge that can be righteous, but in the most cases, when you seek revenge, you dig two graves, and usually you enter first,
Mm.
right?
Wow. Say that
So
again.
so when you seek revenge, you dig two graves,
Mm.
and usually you enter first.
Mm. Do you think that they fall in, or mistakenly fall in, or choose to get in?
I think
That's deep, Brandon. Woo.
when when you're digging two graves, by the time you dig that second grave, you've dug it so deep you can't get
Woo.
out. You're too tired to get out.
Mm.
You put so
Woo,
much
man.
energy into digging a grave that you haven't realized you put yourself in a position where you can't
Can
escape.
get out. Wow. Wow, y'all. That's deep. Brandon, I love it because I was going to ask you to go first this morning. And you just went anyway. How about that, y'all? I feel like the pen. I just got a pen that I didn't ask for. So, Brandon, a couple of things I thought about. One of the greatest quotes I heard about unforgiveness, Marion Williamson's quote: "Unforgiveness is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die." In other words, unforgiveness ultimately damages us, which is what you just said, Brandon. Maybe this is why Jesus was emphasizing the importance of forgiving others over and over again, as it is critical to our own freedom, right? To our own freedom. But what we also must keep our minds on is that communication. For the most part, we are walking around with unforgiveness that could be cleared up with one conversation, with one honest, effective communication, one round of effective communication, right? However, that plays out, we are so afraid to address conflict. How do you handle conflict? And this is why I say, you guys, and I'm going to keep pushing this because I don't do it enough. Y'all, go over to Bluff City Leadership and take this assessment. Go take it. Go take it. I'm so thankful for Rodney Jordan's wife this morning. I woke up to something she had put on Facebook, and maybe I'll have time to share it later. Tamaria Jordan, y'all go over to her page, like the perspective view, right? And so we have to, a lot of your unforgiveness has more to do with you than it does the person. Because in most cases, you are offended, right? You are offended because there was already something there. When you grow and become self aware and you accept life as it unfolds, there is little that people can say or do to you that you will pick up. Because then you know what you just did and said has nothing to do with me. It's more about you. So here, I'm going to give it back to you. I'm going to give it back to you. I'm not picking it up so I don't have to put it down because I'm consistently trying to pick me up. So think about that quote. Unforgiveness is like you drinking poison and expecting the other person or someone to die. Why would we even want someone to die? And remember, hurting people hurt people. I have to forgive because as I grow, I think about, boy, and I've said this here, if I could go back and apologize to some people, because I'm sure in my dysfunctional state, in my hurting people hurt people stages, I have hurt some people. I was thinking about doing my recertification. So I'm a contemplator and I stay in my head. I think about what I think about. But as I continue to grow, I'm doing better with getting out of my head. But I was thinking about someone that is really dear to me, who is also a contemplator. But I never contemplated the fact that how I am, he is. And in his being, I was offended by the person who he is, which is also the person I am, the language that I am. So when he's doing the things to me, they matter. But when I am doing these things to him or people in general, like shutting down, shutting down on the people that you love, right? Crazy for a month. Don't talk to me, you know, in my head. I lived in my head. And it doesn't mean that like it's like you live in your head to the point where you can't even really be express love for people. And then the way that you do it is not how they receive it, right? So it's like the love language, but it's our language. So how can I love you or forgive you when I don't know who I am, when I have um, issues with forgiving myself? Because oh yeah, I tell you, forgive yourself first. How about let's just make that the point today. Write a forgiveness letter to yourself, right? Our affirmation says, I now release all those who hurt or offended me. I forgive them completely. You are the first person that hurt you. I'm telling you, y'all, it's all about you. If you water your seed, it will grow. It will grow. It will grow. And then you allow or you give people, forgive people, moves the or releases the space for people to forgive you. Right. And forgiveness does not mean let's clear it up. It does not mean that you just let people get away with stuff, right? That people don't have to own up, right? That's the part that we miss out on. We think that we have to just kind of be this passive person, right? That's not what it's about. It's about that conversation. It's about asking for what you need. What do you need and how do you need it are the two things that we focus on in Bluff City Leadership with the assessments. But guess what? It's not anybody's responsibility to know what you need and how you need it. And they can't know if you don't know, right? And so the best way to forgive and be forgiven is to become the best version of yourself. I'm reminding, and I'll turn it back over to you, Brandon. Um, Two things, granddaughter. I'm going to have to repeat this story. This is the story where the neighbor had given them some cars, remote control cars, Mima. And with Tupac being younger, it appeared that he needed more help. Kitsali, a little bit older, seemed to be doing okay with, getting it started and operating it. And so it went on for a little while with my helping the younger one, Tupac, right? And all of a sudden, I hear this little voice, tears, right? Shaky voice. But grandma, what about Kitsali? Right? And I thought, whoo, what if adults did that? When they felt some kind of way. And get this, my intentions were pure. I thought baby girl got it. She's doing her thing over there. But baby girl felt some kind of way because I wasn't trying to show her. And so that's a moment to say, hey, listen, I'm sorry. I thought you were doing okay. I thought you had it. Grandma didn't mean to hurt your feelings. But what if we said it at that time? But so often we walk away, not even having an understanding, but we have a level of unforgiveness. So you're drinking poison, thinking they're dying, but all the time, like Brandon said, you're digging a grave and you're digging it so far that you don't even realize that there's no ladder or no way for you to come back up, right? So forgive yourself today. Let's just start there. Let's just start right there. And I think, Brandon, I'm going to turn it over to you. And then before we end, I have maybe just, well, I'll tell you guys what, I will put it out there on the link. And I hope you guys, what we're putting out there, that you guys are taking more time to contemplate on. Because there's some good stuff, right?
Yeah.
So over to you, Brandon.
Yeah, thank you, Mom, for sharing those insights. One of the things that I thought about in reading this is how when you change, it gives other people the opportunity to change as well. Because it may be a matter of them not knowing that what they did was hurtful. It may be you haven't realized, in being the person offended, that you had this open wound. What do they say? A hit dog hollers, right? Right. So, in some cases, we don't even know why we're offended,
Mm,
or it touches something someone said or did touches an insecurity of ours, and their intent may not have been to harm us, and maybe what they said in a vacuum and without context isn't something that is inherently offensive or hurtful, but because sometimes it's because they said it. You know, sometimes it's who you are, and like, for example, if a husband says something critical of how his wife looks, right? It could be something simple as, "Why are you wearing that?"
oh boy, he got knocked off then. He's about to preach to the choir now.
Y'all,
Ooh,
y'all, you see, it almost locked me out the show.
I know, right?
You
Yeah, why
saw
you
it?
wearing that?
Why
Yeah,
you
that'll
wearing
tear
that?
a woman up right there now.
Yeah, right. Why you wearing that? Why would you buy something like that? So, like, as a one thing you taught me, Mom, and it's something I'm still getting, I'm still learning to this day, is that especially when it comes to significant others, women listen with their heart,
Mm.
right? So be gentle with your words. And as a man, sometimes I'm like, this is what it is. This is black and white, cut and dry. Let's get A plus B equals C. We're trying to get to C. Whereas sometimes with a woman, it's like, A plus B, but then you got to divide it by, B squared, because A was tired and B just wanted to be there.
And it might
So,
be Wednesday and not
and it might be,
Monday.
yeah. And then there's a certain time of the month where, like, you just
Ooh.
gotta you just gotta see your way out. you know. So, I could go
Forgive
on,
us, men. Please forgive us.
man. And here's the
Well,
thing, like,
I'm telling you, forgive us.
and one part of being a man that I'm realizing. So in the Quran, it says that men are the maintainers of women. Men are the maintainers of women, and this gives an amount of responsibility, right? To where as a man, we think very linear, right? We think very, like I said, A plus B equals C, very logical, right? Whereas a woman in general is very rational, but on a different logic. Like we men might be logical and rational, whereas women are more emotional and rational. Not saying that they don't have logic, but there's more of a dynamic um, and more figurative things at play. Right? There are things that you have to say in context. There are things that aggregate with them. Everything's not compartmentalized like men do. We're easy to separate this event from that event. Whereas with our sisters, everything's kind of put together in this gumbo of consciousness and emotion. And what you said last week may be in the front of her brain this week, and you think it's already gone. You think that was a year ago to you, right? But that was 5 minutes ago to her, right? And so if you don't understand that women go through phases like the moon. That's why the moon is looked at as a feminine celestial body, and the sun is looked at as a masculine, because the sun comes up, goes down, looks the same. In the winter, the sun comes up, goes down, looks the same. In the fall, whatever season it is, it goes up, comes down, looks the same. But that moon is going to change every night. That moon is going to go through its phases, her phases, every night. Sometimes you don't see her, and it's a black sky. Sometimes she's shining bright and she's lighting up the whole night. You can't even see the stars because she's so bright. And other times she's half of herself. Sometimes she's just a little slither of light, and she's not reflecting all the light that the man might want to see, right? Or she might not be reflecting her own light in a way, and she might be, a little bit more hidden in the way that she communicates how she feels. But it doesn't mean that she's not there. Just because you don't see the full moon, it doesn't mean that she's not fully there, right? And so as men being the maintainers of women, as it says in the Quran, we have to understand that and give space for that. And that's part of, I think, doing things like that help our sisters forgive our brothers. And it also allows our brothers to give to forgive our sisters, because sometimes, when y'all are going through those things, y'all say some of the craziest stuff. And in all honesty, make no sense at all. But my job as a man, and being a maintainer of the women in my family, a protector, a supporter, a provider, is to also provide the space for her to be herself, and provide the space for her to have those phases, and to come full circle in that phase. So if I know she's in that state, right, which is a trying state within itself, of hormonal fluctuation and things like that, then why would I sit there and try to beat the dead horse of being right? That's me being self-righteous, right? I don't have to be right now. Does that make sense? Like
Yes.
if I'm right, I don't have to be right now. There's a hadith from the Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him, that says that um I don't want to misquote it, but basically that God loves the one who, oh no, it's God promises heaven to the one who leaves arguments even though they're right, that chooses not to argue and will leave an argument even though they're right, just for the sake of not arguing, for the sake of it not progressing into further and further harm and hurt, right? And damage of that relationship, especially when it deals with family. right? And the best, and another hadith is the best of those among you are those who are best to their wives,
Mm.
right? It doesn't say the reverse. It says the best among you. I'm talking to the men. The best among you are the ones who are the best to their wives. And another version says, or not another version, but another saying they said are the ones who are the most benefit to their community. And if you notice, in a community, you can always tell the standard of that community by how educated and how genuinely happy the women are.
Mm.
And one thing about and by that, it's very hard to educate specifically a sister and a woman if she feels threatened, if she feels dispossessed, if she feels um, you know, very, very stressed and anxious, right? It's hard to learn algebra when you feel like you're being chased by a lion. Like if I asked you a math question and there's a lion chasing you, it's very hard to even do two plus seven. You might fumble and say eight instead of nine just because there's a lion running after you. And that spur of emotion and hormone happens more quickly with our sisters and more dynamic. Um, than it does for men. So you can always tell the state of a nation by how educated, by how happy, and how maintained the women are. And the women are the repositories for culture. They're the first educators of the children. They're who the children learn from. They're who the children learn their emotional stability from, both male and female. So if you like we said years before, Mom, if you save a woman, you save a nation. If you educate a woman, you educate a nation. If you kill a woman, you kill a nation. If you kill a
Mm.
man, you just killed another man. He can be very easily replaced. But a woman has a certain type of value, and that's why men are the protectors, the maintainers. We're on the front
Mm.
lines. Women should not be involved in war. It's unbecoming of them. It's unnatural for them. Now they will fight like hell to protect their children and probably be stronger than the men because they have a natural sense that makes them even stronger than men can be when they're fighting for their children, right? But on the onset, women are not built for war. That's why we are there to protect them for that, to maintain them so that they can maintain the nation, the culture, the education, the children, the family. It's the women that want to get together to have the holidays, the
Mm.
cookouts, the Thanksgivings. We just want a day off. So if it was left up to us, it wouldn't be no Thanksgiving. Who? Thank you for giving
Woo,
me a
is
day
this
off.
becoming into a please forgive me woman and man show? This is awesome. This is awesome.
I'm serious though, because especially in the Black community, there's a lot of we have to forgive the men and women, like between the masculine and the feminine, right? Because that's the beginning. It's that union that builds the family unit, are bricks to our community, to the house of our community. And if you don't have a man and a woman, uh, and if our masculine and feminine energies are if our the social paradigms of the man and the woman in our communities are not connected through the masonry of love and communication, then we don't have any foundation to build on, right? So I think a lot of that forgiveness, after we forgive ourselves, we might have to forgive our father's sisters, our mother's brothers. You see what I'm saying? So that we can better love our significant other. There's a lot of things that brothers do, that I think might be harmful socially to women because of love that they didn't receive from their mother, or some harm that might have come from their mother. And there's a lot of things that sisters do because of daddy issues. You guys see what I'm saying? So like we have to reimagine the what I call the divine or the sacred man and the sacred woman. Can we push ourselves individually to become that sacred masculine and that sacred feminine, right? And forgive the other, right? So forgive ourselves, forgive, and then forgive your counterparts, because God made everything in pairs. Everything in pairs. The only thing that's non-binary in this universe is God. I'll repeat that because that can be controversial. The only thing that God has that is non-binary, truly non-binary, is God. That one source. Everything else, God made you in pairs. He created us in pairs,
Mm,
right? So we need each other. And we cannot have each other if we hold emotional poison
mm,
against each other. And when you hold emotional poison, you're really destroying yourself. That's the poison that you're sipping on and expecting the other person to die, right? When you don't say, hey, that hurt me, you've just ingested
mm,
emotional poison. When you're passive aggressive and instead of saying that hurt me, you say something to undercut them, you say something to slight them, or you speak badly about them to someone else, or you don't reply to that text because of what they said days ago,
mm,
right? Or you don't pick up that phone when they need you because of something they said days ago. I'm speaking to myself first, right? Then you've ingested that emotional poison by not addressing what was there for you, and that's why they're hitting you up. It's God giving you an opportunity to clear the the backup, the buildup, to give you the opportunity to mend that relationship. And maintaining family ties is incumbent upon those who call themselves believers. Your family has rights over you. Keep in touch. Let them make sure they're okay. This is a right that they have on you. Ties of the womb are is part of the rope of God. Hanging on to that. God placed out of all the people that have ever been created, He made them your family. Out of all the people in the world, the people living next to you, He made them your neighbors. And you might not even know them. Or you might be mad at them because they didn't line up their yard right, or they mowed on your grass a little bit too much. You know what I mean? Small, stupid things, right? And once we all really break it down, some of our biggest arguments that we've had with people have been over the smallest things. And in many cases, those small things, those small straws that broke the camel's back, is because we didn't mention all the weight we were already burdened with that we were holding back. So it seems like, no, like why did they explode over this one little thing? Oftentimes, it's been an aggregate of this and that being added that we've never talked about. You hurt me at this time, and I never mentioned it to you. You know, you didn't do this, or you said this, or you made me feel that way, and I never said anything. So it's that one day that it just, I couldn't take it anymore, and everything came rushing out, and now you feel offended because what you said in that moment, that present moment, did not warrant my reaction. But to me, I'm all the way in the right because it's been adding up over time, over time, over time, over time, and the
mm.
fault is just as much mine as it might be yours in aggregate. I'm just as wrong in that moment as you may have been. All those times added up in that one moment because I never said anything, right? I
Mm.
never gave us that opportunity. And that is the lesson that you will keep learning. That is the situation that will keep coming to your face until you address it. Today, have an intervention with yourself before you have an intervention with anyone else. All right, that's all I got.
Okay, so Brandon, and I'm going to be quick, you guys. I'm glad Rodney is on here because you've made me think about something he used to say on the show, that he gives people a clean sheet of paper every day, right?
Mm,
And you touched on something, Brandon, like with the people, maybe you left someone, you feel in some kind of way, they said something, did something. Now you get a call from them or a text, and you just conveniently don't see it, right? But you do see it. But when you do see it, you think about the thing that was left behind there, right? There's something that I love between what is said but not meant and what is meant but not said. Relationships are lost, right?
Mm-hmm.
Between what is said but not meant and what is meant but not said, relationships are lost. We have no problem saying, if you're in a heated argument, great example, men and women, right? You guys are in a heated argument. Someone says, well, okay, fine. Then I'm just going to leave. You find no problem in saying, well, leave then. I don't give a whatever. I don't care. And before they take their hands off of the opposite side of the door, you are in tears, feeling some kind of way. And what you really wanted to say or should have said, right, is please don't go. Let's just let this settle and talk about it later, right? It's so easy to protect the ego rather than set yourself free. So I'm going to end with this as well. We all have needs. And Brandon, also the trees. You talked about pears. It made me think about the trees. Did y'all know there are female and male trees? And that because of the way this thing is happening with the planting of less female trees because they produce more pollen. Um, it,
Produce more. They produce the
um,
fruit. The fruit falls.
right, falls or whatever it is, it causes more pollen, right? Because it causes imbalance, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
because there needs to be both male and female trees. Brandon and I spoke about this at Nerd Night about 2 years ago. I heard somebody say female tree. I think it may have been you. And I was like, there are female trees? What do you mean? Google
Mm-hmm.
it. There's a whole thing about it. But
Yeah,
what's
I
so
did a
interesting,
presentation on it.
right? What's so interesting, it is so, it's like us. They're talking about men and women, right? It's like that whole thing we go through, right? So we all have needs. But get this, y'all. We all just need a little bit of what we need from who we need it from. Right? So your wife, your girl, your man, your husband, they have needs, right? But if you just honor just a little bit of what they need, because if she's your girl and he's your guy, there is something they need from you. And if you are there, you have a responsibility. If they're not telling you what they need, ask them, baby, what do you need from me and how do you need it? Because I love you, I want this family, and I want to be here for you. And let me leave you with this. I know we got on the men and women, but it's still about forgiveness. Meet the needs of those who are in your home before you even think about meeting the needs of others. Meet the needs in your home, right? Before you think about going to somebody else's home. Clean up your house.
Mm-hmm.
It's dirty. What do you
Okay.
look like going to clean somebody else's house? Yours dirty, right?
Not dirty. Dirty.
Dirty. This is daily motivations for African Americans. It's dirty. Y'all gonna have to, we need a dictionary for our language. Dirty, right? So I got to get out of here. Y'all be great. Let's check the comments. Any comments from Instagram, Brandon? We don't want to
Nope.
leave
We just
out.
had a lot of people coming in and coming out like giving hand claps and raised hands and things like that. What?
Rodney is a contemplator too. So Rodney by Felicia has been a part of my vocabulary here lately. And I don't mean it in that sense, but Rodney says I'm guilty of by Felicia syndrome. And it doesn't mean you're saying bye. It's just y'all, you just don't have time for it. Once I'm expressive of what I want and need, and if I'm open to making sure that it's reciprocated, like that we're doing the thing, if you keep showing me you, then take your clean sheet of paper and go. Come back when you have written something on it that we
Yeah,
can do
you
something
don't have
with.
to be in people's. You can forgive from afar.
Right. You can forgive people who ain't in your life anymore. And you should. You really should. So he also says, I never heard anyone break down the sun and the moon like you did, Brandon. It kind of went away. So
Uh,
oh, sun and the moon connected in the human gender. He says good stuff.
mm,
Right. So lots of good stuff you guys put out there. KL says super late. I'll catch the replay. And I'm going to put some things out there, you guys. It'll be later on this evening. I can't do it this morning. Please go back and look over this. The stages of unforgiveness, the unforgiveness therapy. Like you could do your own therapy with it. But please start today with forgiving yourself. Write a forgiveness letter to yourself. Forgive you will help you forgive others. All right.
All
So,
right.
Brandon, that's all I have. If we can close
Well,
it out.
good people, on this In This Season podcast, this is our 161st day with the title, Please Forgive Me, and our passage of Daily Motivations for African American Success by Dennis Kimbro. Please Forgive Me was the title. Our quote from Ralph Bunchy, the Secretary General of the United Nations, former Secretary General of the United Nations, said, "People with clenched fists cannot shake hands."
Hmm.
And after the passage about forgiveness and how when we choose to forgive, a marvelous principle comes into play. We change, others change. When we become more receptive, others respond to us in kind. It came to the bottom where we have a affirmation for the day that we say to ourselves, to somebody else, and we send to one that we want to come to the next conversation, right? We want to invite people to this show. If you're benefiting from this, we don't charge a dime. We just charge for you to share this with someone one time. It says, "I now release all those who have hurt or offended me. I release them. I forgive them completely. I now release all those who have hurt or offended me. I forgive them
Hmm.
completely." One more time. I now release all those who have
Who have
hurt
hurt or
or
offended.
offended me. I forgive them
Forgive them
completely.
completely.
That's all we got for you today. Go forgive yourself. Say that in the mirror and then go say it to somebody else who needs to hear it. Thank y'all. We'll be